Hello, welcome to Learning Freedom. I'm Rachael Plant, and a question that is often asked is homeschooling legal in the UK? And the short answer to that question is yes, it is. But I'm going to go a bit more into the legal implications of that and what that means for you as a homeschooler. I'm also going to touch on the process that you need to follow if you're planning to take your child out of school, how you deregister them and get them taken off the school roll. I'll also mention a little bit about support from the local education authority elective home education team. So first of all, a little bit about me. I'm Rachael. I'm a former teacher and a homeschooling mum to an 8-year-old child. I work part-time from home and I work around my daughter. We largely follow an autonomous approach to our education. So that means that we follow her lead. It's very child-led. It's quite play-based. It definitely was very play-based when she was younger. It's about tapping into what she is curious about, what she is passionate about, and facilitating that for her to be able to do more of that and to learn around those kinds of topics and themes. So, for example, at the moment, we do some structured work. So at the moment, the things that she is doing are a series of online workshops, which are about creating, drawing manga anime characters. So she's doing that. She's also learning to touch type because she likes doing creative writing projects, and she has hypermobility issues, so she has difficulty holding a pen or a pencil for a long period of time. So if she can touch type, she'll be able to do that much more efficiently and comfortably. And she is also, we also use the Wild Literacy website and the literacy prompts that are on there to stimulate her ideas and creative juices for creating stories. Because that's another of her passions, creating stories and acting them out, and creating scripts, drama productions, all that kind of thing. So my daughter's never been to school. I decided quite early on that I wanted to home educator and to give her the freedom to learn in the way that suits her best. That's outside of the restrictions of the school system, which is very much a one-size-fits-all system. I wanted her to, be able to follow her own lead, her own passions, interests, as I've already mentioned. So I did have a wobble when she came up to compulsory school age, when she was getting, to the point where she would have been going to school. I did start to think, possibly that would be a better option for her, and I did investigate that a little bit. I applied for a school place, and she'd been asking to go to school, and she's a very sociable child. She enjoys learning with other children, and I think she thought that there was something really exciting happening at school because it's talked about so much. So I felt like it was something that we needed to have a look a bit more deeply at. So I applied for a school, we got a school place, and then we went for a couple of settling in sessions. And while she was there, she got to experience what it's like being in school. And so she was doing one activity in one corner of the room, and then the teacher, just wanted them to all come onto the carpet. And she was quite nonplussed by this, and couldn't understand, she couldn't get it into her head why she was being asked before she had finished her process to go, stop and do something else that was unrelated, and and it was breaking her concentration and her flow. And she, as a result of that, she decided that she didn't want to go. Now, I know that was just like a taster session, but I think it was indicative of how she would have been in school unless she changed, her personality and her way of being quite dramatically, and and started to be able to comply with tasks that were being asked of her that she didn't necessarily understand why she should be doing them. I don't think school would have suited her. I think the social aspect of it might have been okay, but when you think about it, the socialisation aspect of it is quite a short part of the day. Break times and lunch times. A lot of the time they're sat together, but they're working independently. So anyway, we chatted about it and came to the decision that we continue our homeschooling journey, and that is what we've done. So she was never registered with the school, so I didn't need to deregister her. But what I did do was I contacted, when we decided that we didn't want the school place, I contacted the school admissions team, and I said that we no longer required the place. They asked me where she would be going to school, and I said because she wasn't compulsory school age yet, and I'll explain more about what that means in a moment, that we didn't need to have a school yet, and when we did in the future, then I would contact them, and they were happy with that. So if you do apply for a school place and then you decide that you don't want to take it up, that's all you need to do. You just need to contact the admissions team and tell them that you no longer need the place. Okay, so what is compulsory school age? So your child doesn't become of compulsory school age until the beginning of the term after their fifth birthday. So it's not when they reach 5, it's actually the term after they turn 5. So for example, if your child was 5 in the May, they wouldn't become of compulsory school age until the beginning of the September term. So I hope that makes sense. Back to the original question, is it legal to homeschool in the UK? Well, so at this point, I want to clarify some of the terminology around this. So I've been using the terms homeschooling and home education interchangeably. The correct terminology is elective home education. Now, I'm using homeschooling because most people that are new to homeschooling, home education, and want to find out more information and are searching on the internet, searching on Google, are going to use the search term homeschooling. And so I want this content to be to be found, to reach a wide audience. I want people to know about this. So this is why I'm using the terms homeschooling and home education. Normally I would just use the term home education. That's what I understand it to be the correct terminology in the UK. In the US, the usual term that's used is homeschooling, but obviously the content in this video is actually aimed towards people in the UK. Okay, so although I didn't need to deregister my child, having been around the home education community for 7 or 8 years, I have armed myself with quite a lot of knowledge around this. And so if your child is already in school and you want to take them out, you want to deregister them, you don't need permission from either the school or the local education authority unless your child is subject to a school attendance order, or they attend a special school and have a statement of special educational needs, or an educational health and care plan. It's only in those 2 instances that you need permission. Otherwise, you are free to take your child out of school. And what you need to do is to write a deregistration letter or an email to the school, informing them of your intention and the date that will be effective from. And once the school's received the written notification from the parent that the pupil is receiving education otherwise outside of school, then they must delete the child's name from the school roll. You're not obliged to inform the local education authority that you are home educating, although you might hear from them in due course. The school will inform them, and so you at some point, it might be a week or so later, it might be several months down the line, you will hear from them, from the LEA. Now, the LEA don't have any statutory duties to routinely monitor the quality of home education, and you are not obliged to accept home visits, though of course you might find them useful. So that is an option that is available to you, but I just want you to make you aware of your rights and that you do not have to accept visits. There have been cases when the elective home education officer has turned up on people's doorsteps, wanting to do a home visit unannounced. And, this can be disconcerting. It can put you on the back foot. You don't have to accept that. You can say to them, I would like all of our correspondence to be by email. And that is perfectly reasonable. You are perfectly entitled to do that. And also, if all of your correspondence is by email, then there is a written record of all of your correspondence, which can be useful. So I feel it's important to note that the level of support and encouragement for home education actually does vary between different local educational authorities. I don't want to be negative about this, but you potentially need to be aware that not all LEAs are equal, and some find it more difficult to home educate, but then some are really supportive. So there are really variations across the country. So what most home educating families find is more useful and more supportive is the grassroots level support from other home educating families, either online or within their local community, who are already home educating their own children. They know the pitfalls, they know what the issues are, they have been on this journey, and they know where to find out the information, and they know how to deal with things, and all that the home educating journey involves. So yeah, just to make you aware of that. It is advisable though, if the local authority do get in touch with you, it's really advisable to respond and to engage with them, because if you don't, then it can flag up cause for concern. Not to worry you, but just to be aware of that. And as I said, you can request that everything's done by email. Most home educating families who choose not to meet in person with the elective home education team will instead choose to send them an annual report. So that will be by email. It will be an A4 page of their educational philosophy, how they see their approach to the education that they provide for their children, and a very broad sort of overview of the education that they have provided over that past year. So you don't need to follow the national curriculum. There are many varied approaches in the way that different families home educate their children. So many different, from a really structured approach. Some people do choose to do the national curriculum at home because they think maybe their children will go back to school at some point, and they don't want them to fall behind. Some families flexi school, so their children are in school for maybe 3 days a week, and they follow the national curriculum on the days when they're not in school. All the way across to unschooling, which is an approach where there is a very free-flowing approach, and following the children's lead, an autonomous kind of education. Sort of a free-range education, I've heard it called. And then there are lots of variations in between. Some people will follow like a nature curriculum, or something like Charlotte Mason that emphasises art, nature and literature. Or the Steiner education, there's Montessori, there's classical education. So there's many different types of approach that you can follow. Okay, so that's just an idea of some of the approaches that you might want to read up on, you might want to do a bit of research on. So what are your responsibilities as a home educator? So the Department for Education's guidance document states, and I'm going to read this for you. It says Section 7 of the Education Act 1996 provides that the parent of every child of compulsory school age shall cause him to receive efficient full-time education suitable to his age, ability and aptitude, and to any special educational needs he may have, either by regular attendance at school or otherwise. So the responsibility for the child's education lies with the parents. So you either choose, as the person responsible for the child's education, you choose to send them to school, or you choose to educate them yourself. So if you are as a home educator, you are providing an education otherwise than in school. And this means that you're not required by law to follow the national curriculum. As I said, there are many different approaches to learning that you can follow. You don't need to have any special equipment or premises to home educate. The education that you provide doesn't need to match the school day or term time. It doesn't need to be a scheduled timetable. It can be completely adapted to your child's needs and your lifestyle and what works for you. It doesn't have to replicate school in any way, and there is also no requirement to be inspected by Ofsted. So that's an overview of what the law says and how you go about deregistering your child from school if you want to take them out and home educate them. I've created a free guide for parents, and it's called Thinking About Homeschooling, 5 Frequently Asked Questions Answered. And this includes the question about, is homeschooling legal? There's all of the information that I've talked about today. And you can get it by clicking the link below, where you also sign up to my email list to stay in touch and find out about more of this kind of content. And if you want to see more videos like this, then please like, comment and subscribe.